Hey, today we're going to be talking about tape emulators, and we're going to be side-by-siding three tape emulators that I love to use: the J37 from Waves, the UAD Oxide, and the UAD Verve. And honestly, the Oxide and the J37 I've been using for years. The Verve's a new one, and I'm really excited to get into it. So let's go there and let's take a look. First of all, you gotta know these are not the same type of tape emulators. They don't essentially work together in some sort of congruent space where they're competing. They're actually three different beasts, and they're all beautiful and wonderful, and there's three reasons that I use them, and I'm gonna show you those now. So I have a set of drum takes that I tracked last night. I just chopped them up, quantized them a little bit just to get them nice and clean, and let's start talking about the differences between how I use the J37, the Verve, and the Oxide. First of all, I like to think of the J37 as the great equalizer, meaning it has the ability to do what tape does that most people just don't really think of, but they know that happens. And that's the tape warmth and the tape balance, meaning it's not going to crank out heavy low end. Let me play the track just as it stands, and I'll bring in the J37. So let's go. Okay, great. So you probably noticed that upon activating it, it didn't necessarily do a whole lot right away, but as soon as I started giving it some level in, we got to get some tape saturation. Now, it is not my favorite tape saturator. Like I'm not running to the J37 for saturation. One of my favorite settings on this, honestly, is if you pull down the settings list, is the as flat as possible. Because what this typically does is this typically puts me in a position where I'm listening to it from the perspective of like, okay, am I overdoing my bass? Should I kind of level this out and let it be more retro? Let's listen to that in the 15 IPS at 888 as flat as possible. Now, another reason I love to use the J37, I mean, we could toggle through some of these settings, and you know what? I'll just make a video where I'm just toggling. One of the other things I love about this, though, is this also gets me some really cool delay effects. And so now, normally I'm not going to use it on drums, but I think we should just take a look at a few of these, because these I really like. Okay, so some of these are a little overdone. But like old tape delay and retro vocal slap, some of my favorites. So let's go look at those real quickly. So again, like one of the glorious things that you're seeing actually happen here is it's not just running it through tape, but this tape delay is actually applying the tape elements that are filtering it. So it's like you're getting that warmth as it's going through. It's not just some sort of delay, it's actually being delayed with this like warmth in mind. Let's go take a look at the Oxide. So I'm going to bypass this. Now I actually love using the Oxide specifically for drive. Like if I need some oomph, if I really need to add some edge, this is who I'm going to. So let's go check this out. Whoa, okay, first thing, right off the bat, the low end, okay? So where the J37 suffered with the low end, and it does that because it's tape, right? And it's really emulating, this one, the Oxide is like a 2-inch tape model style. So it's more of a master tape. That master tape kind of design is gonna have low end. That low end is very dominant. You could hear it right off the bat. As soon as I started giving it some volume, we have low end all of a sudden, which is, you know, it's kind of surprising. I haven't, honestly, I almost never fool around with presets on this one. Just because I already love so much of what's going on like immediately as you're doing stuff. But I mean, we could try something. Let's try some punch, huh? See what that punch, the kick punch feels like. Now you can hear some of the breakup. Now that's the point where we're kind of like, okay, now maybe it's a little too much. Maybe we should be wise about its use. The breakup's really starting to get a little too much. But again, the Oxide, I love using the Oxide for drive. So I tend to span it on a lot of my group masters, and some of the mix engineers that I've worked with in LA are like, that's exactly what they do, and they do it religiously. Like it happens on every set of masters when they're mixing rock, because they need that little bit of edge, that just a little bit of glowing edge on each group can add a lot of flair. But notice even what it did to some of the cymbals which might have been a little bit high and kind of choppy in the high mids, warmed up and got a little warm, fuzzy, and thick. So like that's exciting to see, and I love that. So the Oxide is like my go-to. The Verve, honestly, this one I was surprised by. I was not expecting this to do anything for me. But watch what happens. So it's like all of a sudden things got real fun. So honestly, like now when I'm setting up a lot of the mix stuff that I'm doing, and like I know we're just looking at drums because there's a lot of other options, but like when I'm setting up a lot of the mix stuff that I'm doing, I'm using Oxide in some of my mix buses because I need that drive. I'm using the J37 in some of my mix buses because I kind of need either that saturation, I need that flatness, or maybe I want that delay, because I'll sometimes use it as a great vocal delay to kind of give it that flair. You're also noticing it added a lot of cool rhythms in the in-betweens for the drums. But the Verve, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is what I needed for like my verse 2 of a song with what I'm doing with my drums, or maybe even some of my opening sections as I'm filtering into a song or filtering out of a song, and I'm seeing it for that. But it also carried with it that drum bus master had this like pristine kind of saturation to it. Like it had like that little bit of I would say like it had a little bit of warmth, but it also had this pristine highs that were actually like beautiful on my cymbals instead of like harsh on my cymbals. And instead of, because some of the tape kind of approaches those high frequencies and those cymbal frequencies at a harsh state, this one came in and I felt like it did it in opposite form. So it was actually smooth, but I still had that high glitter up top. So anyway, so there's 3 tape variations. I'm hoping to make a video where I can kind of spend a little more time scanning through all of them. But yeah, go ahead and check it out.